We'll go ahead and get started. Thanks everyone for signing on to the webinar for the National Partnership for Student Success Higher Ed Coalition. We're focusing today on moving from commitment to action. And if you don't already know me, my name is Mariko Yoshisato KV. I'm a Senior Program Officer with the National Partnership for Student Success and Director of Higher Ed Partnerships. So I'll be facilitating the webinar today, and we're really excited to share some great insights from panelists who have signed on. We're also welcoming Maureen Tracy Mooney, our federal partner, who will share a few opening remarks. Mo, feel free to introduce yourself to the audience and share your perspectives.
Thank you so much, Mariko, and thank you everyone today for joining us. My name is Maureen Tracy Mooney. I'm a senior advisor here in the Office of Planning, Evaluation, and Policy Development at the U.S. Department of Education. As some of you may know, last year in the State of the Union, the president called on more Americans to step into roles as tutors and mentors supporting our nation's P-12 students as they recover from the impacts of the pandemic on their learning, on their mental health, and their overall well-being. Last July, the administration, including the Department of Education and AmeriCorps, in partnership with the Everyone Graduate Center at Johns Hopkins University, launched the National Partnership for Student Success to support the president's call to action. The NPSS, as Mariko will talk more about, is helping to create, expand, and improve high-quality tutoring and mentoring programs across the country, and also supporting student success coaches, post-secondary transition coaches, and wraparound student supports coordinators. We're really thrilled a few weeks ago at the launch of our new effort led out of the Department of Education with the National Partnership for Student Success to get more colleges and universities partnering with school districts to support the expansion of these roles, including using more federal work-study funds, but really any resources to increase the number of college students serving in these really high-impact roles. Thank you so much for joining today to learn more about this effort and how you can get involved. We know that supporting the recovery of our P-12 students is critical to their well-being, critical to the future of our economy, and couldn't be more excited about the partners on the line today who are really leading the way, and look forward to engaging more of you in this work. And with that, I'll hand it back to Mariko. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mo. We so appreciate you signing on today and sharing your opening remarks with the group. We're delighted to have such strong support from the White House and the Department of Ed for this work, and look forward to engaging everyone in the audience in helping us move from commitment to implementation. So from here, if we can pull up the slides. Thank you, Stephanie. I'll just share a little bit of background, echoing Mo's comments around the origins of the National Partnership for Student Success. We understand that many communities throughout the country have been heavily impacted and continue to face the impacts of the pandemic, particularly in P-12 contexts that have affected academics, but not only school success, mental health, relationships, and out-of-school contexts have also been affected. And so moving forward, we really emphasize that it's important to have high-quality and evidence-based individual and small group supports for students that will help with academic recovery, but also develop trusting relationships with caring adults and peers that support other dimensions of youth development. We also really emphasize the importance of wraparound and integrated student supports, again, both engaging the school context, out-of-school contexts, and communities in supporting young people, and also not just stopping in the P-12 space, but supporting young people in developing and implementing their post-secondary plans as well, whatever their pathways might be. We also understand that there's a challenge that many communities are facing in moving from commitment to action. And much of that has to do with struggles to recruit and retain and support staff in the types of roles that young people need. And so the NPSS has been formed to help address some of these challenges and move solutions forward as we think to the future. So, as Mo was mentioning, the Biden-Harris administration officially launched the National Partnership for Student Success as a major pandemic recovery initiative, which will also help us think towards the future of education. And in the 2022 State of the Union, President Biden called on more people to serve in youth supporting roles as tutors, mentors, and in other critical positions in P-12 school and out of school time contexts. Then in July of 2022, the White House officially launched the NPSS and named a specific goal of getting an additional 250,000 adults into these roles by 2025. And we're hoping that you're all here to help us work towards that collectively. The NPSS is a public-private partnership between the U.S. Department of Ed, AmeriCorps, and the Everyone Graduates Center at Johns Hopkins University. We call this the NPSS Support Hub, and we are here to provide resources and guidance to help communities all across the country make commitments to answer the president's call to action and collaborate with one another to engage more people in youth supporting roles. Here's just a quick glimpse at the 5 key areas of youth support that the NPSS is engaging in. You can find more information about this on our website, along with specific descriptions of the types of roles that we support and voluntary quality standards to help make sure that these roles are well aligned with the highest quality that will help us all scale with great impact all across the nation. And our roles include tutors, mentors, success coaches, which are a combination of tutors and mentors, as well as wraparound and integrated student support coordinators and post-secondary transition coaches. And you'll hear from our panelists quite shortly around how they're engaging young adults in all these different types of roles and supports. We also engage a network of networks to help move from commitment to action. So as you can see on the screen, we have over 135 education and youth serving organizations across the nation that have signed on as supporting champions of the NPSS. And these organizations have served to help guide our work, offer their insights and expertise, engage in focus groups and working groups to identify needs of the field and elevate potential solutions. And so we're excited that you're all here to bring together organizations, be it higher ed institutions, schools and districts, nonprofits, or other community-based organizations that are all interested in working together to answer the president's call to action. Now we move to the focus of today's call, which is on the current priority of engaging colleges, universities, and college students in these roles. So as Mo mentioned, we are really focused on encouraging higher ed institutions to make a commitment or set a goal to place more of their college students in P-12 support roles in schools and in out-of-school time contexts. And there are a couple of pathways that we encourage you to move forward in doing that. So quite recently, just in May, the U.S. Department of Ed released a Dear Colleague letter specifying this call to action for higher ed institutions to either use at least 15% of their federal work-study funds for community service within the next 2 years and devote any increase in those roles to NPSS-aligned positions, as you just saw on the screen, or campuses can significantly increase the number of post-secondary students newly placed in these roles. And there are multiple pathways to answer the call to action because we know that colleges and universities are engaging students in multiple pathways to community service. So while federal work study is an incredibly powerful lever for this work, and we believe college students can heavily benefit from job opportunities to do this work through federal work study, we also know that it's important to engage college students in other credit-bearing types of opportunities, be that community engaged or service learning coursework, be that internships or other paid roles on your campus. And so the key here is in answering the call to action, we emphasize that each campus's goal should be responsive to their unique situational context based on existing programs or priorities of their institution and in alignment with the highest quality efforts promoted by the NPSS. We also ask, as part of the call, to share data on your progress. And this is really important because we aim to understand a baseline of how many college students are currently serving in these types of roles and how we can grow to help meet the president's call to action. And we know that sometimes it can be challenging to collect this data. And so this is not at all a federal requirement. It's truly an opportunity to bring organizations across the nation together to share information with the NPSS and help us understand the circumstances that you're working in and how you're moving towards progress and answering the call. That said, we also know that it takes significant collaboration and working together to help campuses get to a goal. So we advise organizations to consult with others in your networks when you're thinking about moving forward to set a goal to answer the call to action. A couple of key stakeholder groups that you'll see on the screen include campus administrators as well as coordinators of existing programs. So as I mentioned, this is not an effort calling organizations or universities to create something new. It's largely a pandemic recovery initiative to think about what programs are already successful on your campus and how can we build upon those to engage even more college students in P12 support roles. And so as you're thinking about potential collaborators on your campus, you might consider various administrators in relevant offices. And on our webinars, you'll hear from folks who are vice presidents or vice chancellors or directors in offices such as student affairs, student success, student employment, community engagement, enrollment services, financial aid, and diversity, equity, and inclusion, among other types of offices that might be relevant in your campus community. We also encourage you to collaborate with coordinators of existing programs that might include America Reads or America Counts, Jumpstart or other types of AmeriCorps programs, TRIO or other types of federal or state-funded initiatives in P12 educational support, be that tutoring, mentoring, post-secondary transition coaching, or other types of roles, knowing that all these folks are going to be key in collaborating and moving from both setting a goal on your campus to implementing strategies in your community. Along the path to implementation, we also encourage celebrating progress. And so as we were talking about with data sharing, we're not only asking for information on the numbers of college students serving in these roles now and over the next couple of years, but we also really hope to elevate best practices, help understand the challenges of the field and come to solutions together, and also provide recognition opportunities for organizations that are part of the Higher Education Coalition and answering the call to action. So just as you'll see panelists on today's webinar, we are also very encouraging of you all to share your practices and your expertise and experiences with us so that we can help others in the higher education and broader education community learn from all the great work that you're doing. And as we move forward into thinking about implementation, a couple of key considerations that you'll hear come up both in the panel and you'll also see in the breadth of resources that the NPSS provides addresses common concerns. And those might include things like funding sources, be it federal work study or otherwise, transportation needs, timeline for implementation, and all of these things are addressed in our resources and support. So we encourage you to move forward and answer the call to action by submitting a request for technical assistance on any and all of these types of implementation considerations. And we provide consultation, access to networks and support, webinars and events focused on these implementation pathways, as well as resource sharing opportunities. And as you'll see shared in the chat, we are linking you to where exactly you can find these resources for support. And in addition to technical assistance, you can find pre-provided guidance in the form of toolkits focused on high-impact tutoring, college and university partnerships, and how to move from setting a goal to implementing your program. We also provide toolkits for districts as well as nonprofit organizations in guiding the approach to partnerships. And we also recognize that many of you likely already have great and strong reciprocal partnerships in place. And so again, a key effort in this national strategy is to build on great examples of existing work already happening. And lastly, we provide voluntary quality standards, as I mentioned, to make sure that programs that aim to grow are really doing so with the highest quality towards scale. And so we're very excited to provide all these resources to folks answering the call to action and make ourselves available for meetings with you all, as well as convening everyone for opportunities like professional learning communities or events where folks in the higher ed community, schools, districts, and nonprofits can come together to answer the call to action. And with that, I'm going to transition to the panel discussion, which will be facilitated by Kate. And Kate Cochran is the Managing Director of the National Partnership for Student Success, who will be introducing our panelists. And we're very excited to learn from them all. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you, Mariko. Really excited for this panel to give folks an overview of what you can expect to hear. We are excited to engage a panel of leaders from two of our early adopter institutions who have already set goals to either increase the percentage of federal work-study funding that they dedicate to compensating students in NPSS aligned roles as tutors, mentors, success coaches, etc., or significantly increase the number of students placed in these types of roles from their campus. So we'll hear from representatives from the University of Memphis and Howard University, as well as representatives from nonprofit organizations that these campuses work closely with in order to implement these types of P-12 student support services. So I'm really excited to introduce our panel. First, we have Jaleesa Hall, who is the founder and chief executive officer of the Raising a Village Foundation, which partners with Howard University, as well as several other institutions of higher education, as well as schools and out-of-school time community programs in the Washington, D.C. area. We have Dr. Mary Grace Hemme, who is the Director of Academic Learning and Research at the Peer Power Institute, based at the University of Memphis. Courtney Richardson is the Chief Executive Officer of the Peer Power Foundation, a nonprofit organization based in Memphis, Tennessee, which partners with the University of Memphis and local schools. And finally, Dr. Dawn Williams is the Dean of the School of Education at Howard University, where she leads university school community partnership work to engage college students in P-12 student support roles. So very excited for this conversation today. My first question will actually be for all panelists. We're going to start with Jaleesa, and then we will go to Dr. Hemme, Courtney, and then close out with Dr. Williams. We know that there are many ways that this work can happen in many different models that, if designed intentionally, can work well when it comes to supporting P-12 students. Please tell us a little bit about the programs that you're working in and what you do. Jaleesa.
Sure. Thank you, Kate. Again, my name is Jaleesa Hall. I am the founder and CEO of Raising a Village Foundation. Raising a Village is a DC nonprofit where we have a mission to build safe, healthy, and whole communities by increasing access to education, health, and wellness in the arts in underserved areas. And so under our education pillar, we have a program called Driven to Succeed, which is a youth development program for K-12 students that provides both in-school and after-school programming, particularly around academic interventions, social emotional learning, and college and career readiness. Our model is that we use college students from local colleges and universities, including the illustrious Howard University, to actually go into these schools to lead the academic interventions. And so we do have a near-peer model. And so when we are thinking about partnering with higher ed institutions, it makes so much sense because we know that high school students are a positive reflection of what our young learners can be. And so those are the ways in which we engage across DC. And we are in various schools, we are in various affordable housing communities, and we are also in transitional housing shelters. And so that's a little bit about the work that we do.
Thank you so much, Jaleesa. Dr. Hemme.
Hi there. The Peer Power Foundation partners with Memphis Shelby County Schools, which is the largest school district in the state of Tennessee, and with the University of Memphis, a large urban-based campus with over 20,000 students. My position at the Peer Power Institute at the University of Memphis is uniquely situated to facilitate this partnership between Peer Power and the University of Memphis, since I'm an employee of both. So that's kind of what makes it unique. And part of my role is also to collaborate with Memphis Shelby County schools and partner teachers to train our success coaches and to gather data on our outcomes. And I'm actually going to let Courtney talk a little bit more about the Peer Power program.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Mary Grace. Yes, I'm Courtney Richardson, CEO of Peer Power Foundation. I've actually been with the program for 18 years, actually, since we started. The program started as a high school tutor. And so from my vantage point, the current crisis that public education is in is a near 20-year crisis. And so about almost 20 years ago now, our model, simple yet powerful, we wanted to hire students who were peers, students who came from the same areas, came from the same background, had the same challenges as their peers, but persisted. They had academic success. They succeeded in different areas of their lives, right? And so, as Jaleesa said, they serve not as these fictitious models, but these were very, very live models so that students can see that they could succeed. And so since that time, really 2015, we started a partnership with Memphis Shelby County Schools and the University of Memphis to hire high-performing college students who we would then deploy to be tutors and mentors inside of high school classrooms every day with the same teacher for the entire school year so that they could move the needle academically and help with differentiated instruction.
Thank you both so much. I'm excited to learn more as part of this conversation. Dr. Williams.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for having me and Howard University to be present in this conversation. First, I'd like to begin that I was a former classroom teacher, so I certainly can understand the benefit of having additional support in the classroom, and also connected to my own personal history. As a graduate student, I served with America Reads during the time, so it kept me connected with students, and particularly within schools and school districts. In my position at Howard University as the Dean of the School of Education, my role is primarily to raise the next generation of educators. Those educators include pre-service teachers, administrators, counselors, psychologists, etc. And all of them would have the opportunity, if eligible, through federal work study, to make contributions in this regard. We have largely, I think it's a benefit to us as well, as our mission is truth and service, to be a part of so many amazing programs in which our students are afforded these opportunities. Some of those programs are at Howard University through TRIO, many that you have mentioned earlier, Jumpstart, both of those facilitated by the School of Education, and then our most recent connection through Raising a Village, of being able to connect our students. Now, what's very exciting for me is my students are actually training to be educators. So to provide them the opportunity to be able to get this experience that's through a paid opportunity, but then also helps them in their development of becoming phenomenal educators. So my role in this process is really to help elevate the opportunities, and so students know what is available and be able to support them through that.
Thank you, Dr. Williams, and totally agreed. So important to think about this really as a win-win-win situation. Benefits P-12 students, benefits college students who are, may or may not be pursuing careers in education, but particularly those who are, and also benefits the university. So very excited for this conversation. My next question is for you, Courtney. The Peer Power Foundation has hired college students receiving federal work study funding from the University of Memphis to work as student success coaches for many years, and is building upon this foundation to answer the recent U.S. Department of Education call to action. What are some of the key implementation strategies that you're leveraging to successfully increase recruitment and provide support to college students who are serving in these roles?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for that. When we start talking about college students being employed, we know that all college students need money, right? Now, what we've recognized is that in utilizing the work-study pot of money, those on-campus jobs do not pay as well as some of the competitive roles that are out there in the community, including McDonald's, Taco Bell, and other fast food restaurants who have increased their hourly pay. So one of the things when it comes to implementing this program that's important is to really look at that rate of pay and figure out if there needs to be supplemental philanthropic dollars to make sure that this role can be filled at scale, right? Because students will go and opt for a job paying $17 an hour at Amazon if or FedEx for us here in Memphis as well, if the pay is not what it needs to be. And so making sure that that pay rate is thought about. When it comes to recruitment, one would think that you can just go to a campus as a nonprofit organization and say, hey, we have a job for you, and that those students would just work that job. Well, there needs to be a layer of support on the university end. And so one of the things that we make sure we do is we send emails as Peer Power, but we also employ or deploy or ask the universities to send out all student emails. The other piece with that recruitment, Peer Power has a Peer Power Day on campus where our current college students, and it's more than 200 of them, recruit at the main entrances of campus because while our college students are success coaches and we call them peers, there's also the power of the peer when it comes to recruitment. We like to say this is the best job to work. This is the best job to work. And the last thing I'll say about that is that in implementing this program, the focus has to be student-centered and student-centered on every level. How do we make sure that for the college student, the flexibility of scheduling, and I'm actually going to take the word flexibility out and start using customizable, because to some, flexibility means I can come to work when I want and don't have to come some other times. The schedules have to be customizable for those college students so that it could be work around their schedule. And the other piece is that if we're going to truly be student-centered, we have to make sure that college students provide consistency for teachers in the classroom. They don't need to see a different set of students every day that they go in. So on the scheduling piece, which is a big challenge, making sure that the schedules are clear so that when it's time to recruit, the college students even know how to create their schedule to fit that need. Last thing I'll say is that the goals for every collaborative partner has to be clear. On the university end, there's a set of metrics that they have, which is college graduation rate. That is important on the college level. For high schools or whatever level, if it's standardized tests or moving the graduation rates even on that level, making sure we're mindful of all of those things as we implement so that the program can really meet those specific needs.
Thank you so much, Courtney, and really appreciate your focus on some really practical, tactical strategies that you've used to make this work. And totally agreed, this has to be student-centered, and it has to work for both the college students employed in the program, but also for the students, teachers, school, who you're partnering with. So important. So my next question is for you, Dr. Hemme. The NPSS Higher Education Coalition engages colleges and universities in setting a campus goal to increase the number of college students who are serving in P-12 student support roles. And we know that this work often happens in collaboration with community organizations, in addition to the district, of course. How are the University of Memphis, Peer Power Foundation, and your local schools or districts working together to set attainable goals to answer this call to action?
Sure. So collaboration between Memphis-Shelby County Schools, the University of Memphis, and Peer Power is really vital to what makes our program work. Peer Power shares the goal of Memphis-Shelby County Schools. So basically, they set a lot of what our priorities are. And we follow and prioritize their needs in where and how we provide our services. the University of Memphis works with us towards those goals by helping us recruit and train our success coaches. It allows us to provide internship credit that can be used towards degree completion for our success coaches, and it helps us to study the outcomes of our work in schools. And for the purposes of the call to action, they help us utilize federal work study funding. So to maximize our impact on student success, this partnership has really helped us to establish a robust training program. We provide 50 hours of training each summer, which is housed on the University of Memphis campus in collaboration with Memphis Shelby County Schools teachers. There are basically 3 areas that we focus on in our training: culturally responsive instructional skills, a Memphis Shelby County Schools curriculum review, which is led by our partner teachers, and then social emotional skill buildings, both for our success coaches and so that they can use those skills towards student support. We provide monthly development training too, which I think is nice. So we kind of follow up on the training that we provide in the summer. And then Memphis Shelby County Schools also works with us through a data usage agreement so that we can make sure that we know our outcomes and we have the data for our programs. I'm thinking about the call to action and how this has helped with these goals and how it helped to kind of catalyze to serve as kind of a catalyst for our program. It's really helped to push us to move even more closely to work with the Office of Financial Aid at the University of Memphis to kind of maximize the usage of federal work study funds. Prior to this year, success coaches were only using about 15 to 20% of the funds that were allotted to them through federal work study. So we've partnered more closely with the Financial Aid Office to have Peer Power to be listed as a priority program for those funds. So we're hoping that once we have increased and maximized the utilization of these funds, that we'll be able to provide additional opportunities for our students and for our success coaches through supplemental enrichment opportunities in the summer and during breaks, to be able to hire more success coaches than we would have been able to do through our contract with Memphis Shelby County Schools. And hopefully all of these things will help us accelerate our impact on the shared student success goals that we have.
Thank you so much. And I really love the focus on both training at the beginning and ongoing support, knowing that to do this work well, college students really need robust training and understanding of the work that they're about to embark on, and ongoing support. And I love your point around leveraging some of the resources and expertise that already exists on campus in terms of what high quality and instructional training looks like, research, et cetera, to benefit your program and the students it serves. Thank you. My next question is for you, Jaleesa. So Raising a Village Foundation engages college students from multiple higher education institutions, and we know including Howard, who support P-12 students in a variety of programs and serve in different types of NPSS aligned roles. Can you tell us about the implementation strategies that have been effective for you in advancing in this work, knowing that you're doing so many things?
So as I mentioned before, Raising a Village's education initiative called the Driven to Succeed program is based on a near-peer model, because we understand that relationships with individuals who are close in age offer a powerful combination of benefits of the peer and mentor relationships. And so with this in mind, Raising a Village partners with local colleges and universities like Howard University to recruit young people to serve our communities. And so some of the strategies in which we do that is we first started with federal work study. That's the method that we first started with, understanding that there is a synergy and a direct kind of reflection and mirroring usually between the federal work study student and the underserved student that we are serving in the local community. However, there are multiple pathways in which we have been able to create our near-peer model, which includes service learning courses, educational prep courses, volunteering, and we have even hired students directly through a newly funded student worker program that is housed within Raising a Village Foundation. And so we also understand that every university is structured differently. There is no college and university that is structured the same. And so we've had to be very intentional and community minded about making sure that we are customizable and knowing which offices, which administrators, which staff persons do we need to be in relationship with to not only be able to meet our goal for DC Public Schools, our goal as an organization, but also the goals of that college and university. And so in essence, I think it's important for colleges to think about how do we partner with nonprofits to create inclusive on-ramps for college students to serve the local community so that our young learners can be able to achieve success academically. And so those are the ways in which we have moved throughout the local DC community.
I love this, Jaleesa, and everything you said is so important. And really, I think we see this as a theme, both in work with colleges and universities, but also with districts, about how do you as a nonprofit leader kind of speak the language of the stakeholder who you're trying to partner with, knowing that it may vary from city to city, state to state, and being mindful of that in developing and maintaining a positive partnership. So my next question is for you, Dr. Williams. So Howard cultivates multiple pathways to community service for college students, as you mentioned before, and for these college students to serve in P-12 support roles. What about the partnership with Raising a Village Foundation stands out? And what do you look for in finding strong community partnerships?
Right, thank you for that question. Well, the first thing that I will say is that this initiative is highly mission aligned to what we do at Howard. I mentioned earlier that our motto is truth and service. It's important to know that service and social justice is really embedded into our institutional DNA. So that's sort of an easy grab when other organizations have that same kind of mission-driven service. It also is not lost on us that Raising a Village has its foundation at an HBCU. So we know that there's a level of understanding about the community that we serve and the community that we train. But in addition to that, when it comes to Raising a Village, Kate, you said something earlier about with intention. And I think that is so important that the work that we're doing is aligned with intention and how we measure that. And that's something, we're not a perfect institution. That's something that we need to get better with all of the initiatives, because we have so many within the university to ensure that it's making the impact that we would like for it to make. So this initiative is really going to help us to raise the bar in that regard. The word seems to be customizable. Courtney first introduced that into our conversation, and it's certainly true with us as well, because the type of support that students and educators need now is different from 10 years ago. And the pandemic really has shown us that. So customizable may be different per site where a student is placed. It might mean greater support in with teachers in different manners, or directly with students, or with the integration of technology, because technology is such a resource that is used differently than, again, 10 years ago for students learning as well as their assessment process. And I'll end particularly with, we have several partners that we talked about on this call already, in addition of working with Raising a Village out in a larger DC community. We also will be working with our middle school on campus, the Middle School for Mathematics and Science, as well as our early learning program, because the pre-K community needs support in that very foundation. And using Jaleesa's term as near peer, certainly when our college students walk into those schools, they are already mentors, but we just have to provide them with the tools for effective mentoring, because our students already see them. Our K-12 or PK-12 students already see them as mentors.
Thank you so much, Dr. Williams. And I love that Howard is partnering with so many different types of organizations, schools in the community, and really focusing on how can we support college students to be the mentors we know they're already seen as, and how can we best support them and recognize them for that work. My final question is kind of a lightning round for each of you. So in one sentence, maybe two, I'd love to hear from each of you. What advice do you have for colleges or universities who are aspiring to partner with nonprofits or districts in their regions to move from setting a goal or having an idea to actually implementing this project? Jaleesa, I'm going to start with you.
Thank you. We only know that partnership works if it's mutually beneficial, right? And so I think it's critical, if we are going to do this national call of action, that colleges have the infrastructure to be able to house this kind of initiative, right? Again, figuring out what department, what school, who needs to actually be leading this charge so that there is a centralized place for nonprofits to go in order to engage, but also for college students to be able to go to know where, to know how they can get involved in this initiative. So I think that if colleges have the infrastructure needed, I think this initiative can go far and change many lives.
Agreed. Well said. Dr. Williams.
In addition to what Jaleesa just mentioned, I'm going to reemphasize the right fit. As Howard University, people know us for our service initiatives and activities. Therefore, we get an amazing amount of outreach to partner, but not all partners may be mission aligned. And so we are very careful about who we align ourselves to ensure that the service that we are providing really truly is a service to the community that we're trying to engage. So as both nonprofits within the community and university settings, just want to make sure that the partnership is a good one, like a marriage, when trying to effect change.
Absolutely. And we want these partnerships to last for many years and be productive for all those involved. So fit and mission alignment is so crucial. Courtney.
So I'm going to give this answer thinking that Dr. Mary Grace is going to give the other answer that I really want to give. So we're going to test our unity right here. But in tandem and in alignment with both what Jaleesa and Dr. Williams said, the partnership is important. Keep the partnership or the collaboration as flat as possible. It does not need to be a bureaucratic process that does not allow for true movement, true success, customization in real time, flexibility in real time. Just keep it flat. Don't take nonprofit organizations through a whole lot of hoops to get something done that truly benefits the university and the students that we serve.
And I know that's easier said than done, but completely appreciate the focus on action and implementation over talking. So it's so important. Thank you, Courtney. Dr. Mary Grace.
I'm not sure if this is the other side of the advice that Courtney is hoping for. But my thought is that it's really important to remain student-centered and to think about how programs can benefit students throughout the educational ecosystem in our communities, because so often K-12 education kind of gets siloed, and then higher education kind of gets siloed, and there's not a lot of communication between those entities. And then when we really think about it, that's the line of how you kind of progress through education, right? So thinking about remaining student-centered, but then also building relationships between the organizations that are involved in education throughout the community, and seeing how your goals overlap so that you can bring the greatest benefit to the most amount of students.
Some great advice, and agreed. The more we can build upon and collaborate on a lot of the great work that's going on already, I think the better we will do. And that actually, I think, leads well into the first question we have in the Q&A. For those of you attending, please feel free to add questions that you might have for the panel or for Mariko or I about the broader initiative. please feel free to add them to the Q&A function at the bottom of your Zoom screen. And we hope to be able to get to all of them. But this next question is for you, Jaleesa, actually. So a big part of the NPSS mission is really to foster cross-sector collaboration. Really similar to what you said, Dr. Hemme, how can we ensure that there's collaboration between many people who are working towards similar goals: higher education, K-12 education, national service, early learning, out of school time, who often have common goals, but may not always have opportunities to collaborate. And along those lines, Jaleesa, we have a question about AmeriCorps funding. My understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, is that Raising a Village Foundation is an AmeriCorps grantee and uses AmeriCorps funding to do some of this work. Are you able to speak to how that works and how you engage AmeriCorps members in this type of work? And are they college students?
Indeed, I can. Thank you so much for your question, Tara. So yes, so we do use AmeriCorps members, but not, we use AmeriCorps Vista members. We do not use AmeriCorps members as in maybe a sister organization like City Years. And so our AmeriCorps Vistas, as if you don't know, they are more focused on capacity building versus direct service. And so our AmeriCorps Vista members serve as site leads at our various schools and other community sites. And so they are really the leaders of the program logistics and day-to-day operations of how the program actually runs. And so they are actually coordinators of our college tutors and mentors. And so they are typically young adults as well that are also a mirror back to the Driven Student Corps members, i.e. tutors and mentors that serve in our schools. And so the pipeline that's really become very beautiful is that we've seen Driven Student Corps members become summer associate vistas with us. And so we've seen that pipeline. And then some of them have even said once they've graduated, I want to become a site lead. And so what we've been able to do at RAV, which has been organic and beautiful, is see this real pipeline of student going from Driven Student Corps member, summer associate Vista, to even working with us as a site lead. And actually in a couple of our surveys from students, they're asking, how can I be a site lead one day? And so we're hoping that eventually our young learners will become AmeriCorps members as well as they continue to matriculate. And so those are the ways in which we engage with AmeriCorps service, and it has been a true blessing and transformative to our work.
Very helpful, Jaleesa. And I think also just another important piece to highlight that this work can't happen only with tutors or mentors. There has to be someone, and often multiple people, playing this coordination role to ensure that schedules are made, training happens, coverage is organized if someone is sick, etc. So really glad that some of that function is supported through Vistas, and that's part of a broader pipeline of promotion into different roles at Raising a Village. That's great. Mariko, I'm going to turn it over to you for our next question.
Yes, and I'm happy to share. I think one of the great benefits of doing these webinars and other types of NPSS gatherings is we get to source questions from many different folks who often share similar concerns. And so one of the questions that we've gotten a lot from IAGs is, if our campus were to sign on to answering the call to action, would we be responsible for meeting the 15% goal for federal work study, or meeting our goal to totally increase the number of students serving in these roles in the first year? And that's a completely valid question and concern. We really want to emphasize that this is a long-term initiative. So the quick answer is no. You're not responsible for getting from wherever your current percentage of federal work study funds for community service is now to 15% or more in the next year. We really want to encourage campuses to look at your own data. So connect with your financial aid office, connect with your federal work study financial aid staff member, and other leaders on your campus who are doing this work to understand, where has your campus been in the past? Where have they been now? We know that the pandemic, again, significantly impacted IHE's or institutions of higher education's ability to continue to place college students, particularly in person, with schools and out of school time programs. So with that being said, take a look at where you are now and then think about a reasonable goal that you can set forth for the future. And that can be, again, moving from maybe you're at 5% devoted to federal work study and community service now, you're aiming for 15 or more. If that feels like it's not quite reasonable for you, maybe you're looking at increasing the total number of students serving in these roles through whatever pathways you have. And we encourage you to start that work this summer, this fall. Begin the conversation now with your campus colleagues, and then know that ultimately, the NPSS will continue to support over the next years and particularly ask for check-ins on your progress on an annual basis. So think of this again, and echoing what Courtney shared as a panelist, I think it's so valuable to consider that many campuses, schools, districts, and communities were doing this work before the pandemic and will continue doing this work afterwards. And so by 2025, we're really encouraging universities along with their school, district, and nonprofit partners to build back up to where you were for pre-pandemic numbers, or even try to exceed those into the future. Kate, anything to add on that question?
No, I mean, really just thinking about who is doing this work, whether it's on campus or in your community well, and considering, to Dr. Williams' point, if they're mission aligned, if they're doing quality work, our voluntary quality standards are a great resource here. Thinking about if someone's already really committed to doing quality work, and might they be a good partner?
Yeah, absolutely. And then I think it's a nice opportunity to build on a related question. And folks, as I'm sharing, please feel free to continue submitting questions. We'll hope to get to all of them today. And if not, we're happy to follow up with everyone afterwards. Considering that this is a voluntary initiative, campuses are wondering if there's any type of penalty for not meeting the goal, or facing challenges which are to be expected in your progress towards the goal. And again, the answer is no, there's no penalty for not meeting a goal. This is truly an opportunity to celebrate and uplift the great efforts happening across the nation and recognize progress. So while we encourage campuses to set aspirational goals alongside their schools, districts, and local community organizations, we also hope for them to feel like attainable goals. And again, recognize that each campus and community is a wealth of knowledge and expertise in and of themselves. And so based on whatever existing programs or practices or initiatives you have, work from there. And again, the voluntary commitment is truly your best effort to set what feels like a reasonable goal to increase the number of students. And as you've seen today, as you've seen on past webinars and for programs we'll continue to feature in the future, we really hope that all types of colleges and universities, schools, districts, and nonprofits can see themselves in this national initiative. So that includes community colleges, four-year institutions, publics, private, all types of regional community settings in different parts of the country. So we encourage you, even if you're not quite sure that you're ready to set a goal right now, reach out, and Kate and I, the NPSS team, as well as our great partners that are already part of the coalition, are more than happy to provide support and guidance along the way. And with that, Kate, unless you have more to share, I'd love to transition into just closing for today's webinar. And again, as additional questions come through, please don't hesitate to reach out to us at any time. We'll also send a follow-up of the recording along with next steps after the webinar. But Stephanie, if we can just pull up the slide on next steps, we'll leave everyone with a few opportunities to think about joining the Higher Ed Coalition. So as your campus is considering setting a goal, what is that going to look like? Well, to join the Higher Ed Coalition, we ask that you submit your goal in an online form on the NPSS website. You can find this in our section devoted to colleges and universities, and Kate is providing this information in the chat as well. That goal setting form asks for all types of information about programs already happening on your campus, collaborators you hope to work with, federal work study numbers, etc. If you don't have all that information yet, that's absolutely okay. You can still submit the goal setting form with your best guess as to what the goal might be or who you hope to collaborate with. And you can even write that you're unsure of some of the information and plan to follow up on it. But we'd love to hear from you and invite you into the Higher Ed Coalition to help us answer the President's call to action collaboratively. Again, we also encourage you to request technical assistance. So if you're not quite sure where to start in the process, please submit our technical assistance form, and a member of one of our TA teams will get back to you to set up a meeting for consultation about whatever it is that you hope to explore in joining the NPSS. We also encourage you, as well as your colleagues, to sign on for some upcoming webinars. Our next webinar on June 13th will feature additional colleges and community programs that are implementing their strategies for moving from commitment to action. And following that, on June 21st, we're having a webinar focused on engaging nonprofits through college partnerships. So if you're a higher ed institution attending today and you're thinking about partnering with schools, districts, or community-based nonprofit organizations in your region, we encourage you to share this information with them as well, and also point them to our website. Again, the resources that the NPSS Support Hub provides are expansive and inclusive of colleges, universities, schools, districts, and nonprofit organizations. We also encourage you to reach out to us directly. My email is in the chat. Feel free to send me a message anytime. And I'm also happy to meet with folks in weekly office hours where you can drop in. I'm happy to provide you a link to sign up for a chance to have a one-on-one conversation if you have any questions, concerns, or ideas about how you might like to join the Higher Education Coalition. With that, I'll turn it over, to Kate if you have any closing thoughts to share, and then we'll conclude the webinar.
Thank you, Mariko. I really just want to take a minute and thank each of our panelists. I know this is an incredibly busy time of the year, and all of you are doing a huge amount of important work. And I really appreciate each of you taking the time to share your experience and expertise with us and with this group. And I also want to thank everyone who has joined us today. I know early June can be a challenging time in higher ed with many folks offline. So really appreciate you prioritizing this call to action in this work and look forward to connecting soon. Thank you so much.